it's time for another lore reading. Let's see what we've learned. Far Cliffs of Kirkwall. Written by a Freldon refugee. As she fled the blight, this book of poems describes her dreams of a new start in Kirkwall, a city across the sea. Readers will surely be enriched by her insights. Of Things Not Lost. Written by a Freldon refugee. As she fled the blight, a book describes her struggles to preserve her past and cling to a few physical memories she's brought with her into foreign lands. Readers will surely find this book enchanting. Things Lent. Written by a Freldon refugee. As she fled the blight, a book of poems. It's touching reminiscence. As she, of all she had to leave behind, Reach will certainly benefit from this experience. Interesting. City of Starkhaven. Starkhaven, the largest city of the Free Marches, sits on the banks of the great Minanta River. I remember my visit to the city quite clearly. I was taken up the river by barge, a cumbersome vessel that moved at a stately pace, then disembarked by the city's center square, an impressive space with marble fountains surrounded by kingly estates. Starkhaven's wealth is truly a sight to behold. A path paved in granite led up to the grandest building I've ever seen. My guide indicated that this was the residence of Starkhaven's ruler, Prince Vale. We supped at the table of my guest's closest friend. I was presented with a variety of dishes from the region. One to straight out fish and egg pie, Starkhaven's most famous dish. 3 deboned fish caught just that day were cooked in a porcelain vessel with boiled eggs, dried fruit, spices, thickened cream, and topped with a light crust. Superb. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, Trials of Chantry Scholar, Brother Genetivi. The first Darkspawn. Those who had been cast down, the demons who would be gods, began to whisper to men from their tombs within the earth, and the men of Tevinter heard and raised altars to the pretender gods once more, and in return were given in hushed whispers the secrets of darkest magic. But it was not worship the false gods craved. They urged the magisters to ever greater depravity, rewarding them with power, and more arrogance became a great caged beast in the lands of Tevinter, an emptiness that consumed all and could never be filled. To satisfy its hunger, the mage lords, at the goading of the gods, assaulted the Golden City, heart of all creation, to take the Maker's power for themselves. With magic born of mingled blood and delirium, the Tevinter broke into the Maker's house, but the promised power was not awaiting there. The moment they entered the City of the Maker, their sin poisoned it. What had been golden turned black violently they were flung from the world of dreams back into the waking world, twisted and corrupted by their crime and their magic into monsters. They fled underground, unable to bear the light of day. The first Darkspawn by Tyranides, 8:21-27, the Canticle of Transfigurations. Sebastian Vale. In the face of danger, sometimes the bravest thing is to stand back and trust that the Maker will see justice done. Sebastian Vale is the only surviving son of the ruling family of Starkhaven, which was murdered in a violent coup d'etat. Sebastian cannot forget the irony that he still lives only because his family was so ashamed of his drinking, womanizing, that they committed him to the Kirkwall Chantry against his will. After initially rejecting the priest's lifestyle, Sebastian was more surprised than anyone when he realized that his show of faith had turned real. Since then, his belief in the Maker and his plans for Thedas have been unshakable. Embracing his new role, Sebastian took vows of poverty and chastity to become a sworn brother of the Chantry, until word of his family's death forced him to take up worldly concerns again. Grand Cleric Elthina, Sebastian's mentor and friend, hopes to convince him to walk away from the struggle for Starkhaven and return to the good works of the Chantry. Though, essentially that was a thing which frequently happened, where one son, well, not necessarily for drinking and womanizing, but spare sons would be sent to the church. I mean, at this point, it was more or less another geopolitical entity. But I'm not exactly sure how they'd handle, like, okay, the first son, like, died. Okay, are we going to shift who's around in order to, like, make sure we have an heir to the family, and despite the fact that, in the church you can't, well, in our world's church, you can't inherit, so you'd have to leave the church then. Um, I suspect, given as the Chantry is pretty much an analog to the Catholic Church, it would be the same here. Notes and letters, nothing. Very good, just notes, nothing. Alright, and that will be it for this one. Thank you for watching, do any relevant things with YouTube's buttons, and have a nice day.